At 11 years old, would you even imagine walking into a tattoo shop? Did you have any interest in tattoos at that age? Did you even know what tattoos were? Some of you may have said yes to these questions. Now tattoos are so commonplace, it's almost rare to see someone that doesn't have a tattoo. Times have sure changed since 1910. Today we're going to talk about a tattoo artist who had a lot of influence in the tattoo industry. He essentially worked at changing the perceptions one tattoo at a time. This artist is a legendary American traditional tattoo artist. He's considered by some to be the Godfather of Old School. Who is this legend that we're going to focus on today? The one and only Bert Grimm. Bert was born Edward Cecil Reardon in Springfield, Missouri on February 8, 1900. He later became known as Bertram Cecil Grimm. He then even shortened that name even more and just changed it to Bert Grimm. Bert was one of 12 children growing up in Portland, Oregon. At around the ages of 11 or 12, he started to frequent tattoo shops. Some of the shops that he would frequent were Sailor Gus, Sailor George, and Charles Western. When Bert was in 4th grade, he ran away from home and decided to go work in the carnivals. By the time he turned 15, he was already tattooing. Bert started tattooing professionally in Chicago in 1916. Right after that, he was plucked out of a tattoo shop by Wild Buffalo Bill Cody. He then began to travel with Buffalo Bill during his Wild West shows, and he did that for about a year. This is where he started to hone his craft. In an article that I found, it stated that Bert decided to do an apprenticeship after he realized that his tattoos needed to be a little bit better. At that time, he took an apprenticeship with Sailor George Fosdick in Oregon. Around 1924, he did his second apprenticeship with Sailor Charlie Bars in San Diego, California. Bert would practice his skills and start to develop his own style. He would take tattoos of the day with bold lines and solid colors and start to make them his own. Somewhere between 1928 and 1929, Bert decided to travel east to St. Louis, Missouri. When he arrived in St. Louis, Missouri, there was only one tattoo artist in town. By 1929, he was the only tattoo artist in St. Louis. During World War II, soldiers, sailors, they would flock to his shop to get tattoos of eagles, flags, anchors, and battleships. Another note to point out is, by the mid-1930s, a large group of women started to seek Bert Grimm to get tattoo work done. He once estimated that 10% of his business was women. Now, speaking of clientele, it's been rumored that Bert Grimm tattooed Bonnie and Clyde. It's also been said by Bert himself that he tattooed Pretty Boy Floyd. Did Bert actually tattoo Pretty Boy Floyd? In an interview I found on the Star Advertiser with Bert's grandson Wes, he states that the Bert Grimm Museum collection, there is a piece of flash of a nurse in rose, and beside that, Bert wrote, "This is the design I done 60 years ago on Pretty Boy Floyd." FBI documents did confirm that Pretty Boy Floyd did have a nurse in rose tattoo. So you decide if he did the tattoo on Pretty Boy Floyd or not. My guess is probably did. While it's widely known that Bert could spin a good tale, this one might actually have some validity to it. Now, Bert owned several shops in St. Louis until around 1954. The shop on North Broadway was the last shop that he did own. With almost 30 years of tattooing under his belt, him and his wife Julia decided to pack up and move to California. I didn't know a lot of the backstory prior to the shop in California. I had no idea that he had a 30-year career before he opened that shop. He gets to the Pike, or it was called at that time, the New Pike, in Long Beach, California. He opens up, how about you try again, mother. Hey everybody, if you like this episode, please make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel, and we really do appreciate it. He opens up Bert Grimm's world-famous tattoo in 1952 or 1954, depending on who's telling the story. The shop at 22 Chestnut Street was originally a tattoo shop that opened up in 1927, and it was called The Professionals. By 1956, him and his wife Julia owned and operated 5 of the 12 shops that were open on the Pike. This time frame is when Bert's legacy really starts to ramp up. He contributed and cultivated a professional standard that tattoo artists still embrace to this day. Bert also had numerous different tattoo artists that wound up being legendary artists themselves. Don Nolan and his half-brother Hong Kong Tom Yeomans worked for Bert from the 50s until around the 70s. Lyle Tuttle worked at the 16 Cedar Way shop for Bert from 1956 to 1957. Lyle Tuttle's legendary front and back pieces were done by Bert at 22 Chestnut Street between the years of 1957 and 1958. In the 60s, Lou and Zeke Owens worked the night shift for Bert Grimm, while Bert and Bob Shaw worked the day shift. Speaking of Bob Shaw, he worked for Bert for around 15 years before he bought the shop off of Bert in 1969. Now, countless other tattoo artists worked for Bert or around Bert or with Bert at the numerous different shops that he owned. He owned shops in San Diego, Honolulu, Portland, Oregon, the coast of Oregon. He had a lot of shops. Bert Grimm was inducted into Lyle Tuttle's Museum Hall of Fame in 1981, just a few years before he actually passed away. Bert's tattoo career spanned 70 years. When Bert retired, he actually moved up to Oregon to try to settle down. And when he moved to Oregon, it's been said that he actually did around 10 tattoos a week out of his house. He actually tattooed up until 2 weeks before he passed away. Bert Grimm passed away June 15, 1985, at 85 years old in Warrenton, Oregon. He left a lasting legacy in the tattoo industry. He took tattoos, made them simple, made them quick, and he made them crisp. He might not have been the most flashy tattoo artist, but his work was top-notch, and he was willing to help and promote other tattoo artists. He's earned his right to be called a legend. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you come back for more as we try to do more history here on Tattoos in Review.